up, what up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm J, and we are locked in. This is season 2 with them, and it's been about 3 years since we covered the original season on Amazon Prime during the pandemic. Now, that one took place in about the 50s, where they relocated to California. This one takes place in the 90s, and it's a whole different storyline. But the action still looks good, the storyline is good, and let me tell you, there are some suspicious things here, and we're going to have to figure out this mystery. Now, before we jump into this and get a recap of episode 1 of them, if you like this kind of content, if you're interested in hearing more, then hit your subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Make sure you hit that like button, and I'm on that road to 50,000 subscribers. And when we first started this, we were on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Now, let's get ready to jump into it. We got some new characters to introduce and see where this storyline takes us. This is Them Season 2, Episode 1, the recap. Starting the series off, we're already looking like, what are we watching? We see a birthday cake here, we see a knife on the table, and a man with a bag on his head, and animated animals just singing, talking about they don't want to go to school. Now, this is setting us up for something, but at this moment, we have no idea. But it looks like there's balloons in the background. We see a cow head, and it looks like they might be at an old Chuck E. Cheese or something of that nature, but we have no idea who this is with the hood over their head. As I mentioned, this is still in California, but it takes place in Los Angeles, 1991, and it's 5 a.m. in the morning, and we have Detective Dawn Reeve getting up to start her day. She will be our main character, and we're going to follow her story. Dawn is a detective, and we have her mother Athena here, and her son Carl. He's in the bed. He's still sleeping, but he does wish his mother a happy birthday. Yes, it is Dawn's birthday. But being a detective, you know you're on call 24/7, and when you get that page, you have to get up and dip out. So when this page comes through, Dawn gets ready, and she's headed off to a crime scene because we need to follow her on this journey and figure out what the heck is going on in this series. Once Dawn arrives to the scene, she's accompanied by Detective McKinney to our right and Detective Diaz. Now, she doesn't want anything to eat. She wants to get in this crime scene, but we do have a police officer filling them in on what happened. The victim is a lady by the name of Miss Mott, and then there's a young boy by the name of Malcolm, 16 years old, but they already took him down to the police precinct. All we know is the main circuit breaker has went off in the house. It's about 90 degrees in there, and it's a kind of an ugly situation, but we'll see that once we go on the inside. As they approach the house, Dawn, she's recording everything. The nearest street light, 60 feet away, meaning no one can really see anything that comes up here because there's no porch light on either. But as they approach the stairs to go into the house, there's one of the police officers vomiting over in the grass, meaning whatever he's seen, smelled inside of that house was that bad that he had to leave the crime scene and begin to vomit. So everything is being mentally documented, and she's also verbally documenting everything onto a recorder so she can listen back to what she's seen once she entered on the scene. As they go around the house, she's noting everything. There's a clock on the wall that's broken. The time has stopped. There doesn't look like a sign of struggle getting into the house. In the bedroom where all of the kids were sleeping, we see multiple televisions. We see cassette players. We see radio players. And it's kind of weird because there's a lot of cords going through the hallway. Also, inside of the closet, we see old dolls with their heads ripped apart from the body. There's also soiled diapers. So you can imagine how it smells in this house. At 90 degrees, everything is closed. The windows are sealed shut. The windows and the mirrors have paper over it so you can't look out or have a reflection. This is kind of a weird scene. Once they make their way into the kitchen, this is where we see the disturbing image that is on the screen. Miss Mott is folded up like a suitcase and placed up under the kitchen sink. Now the issue is, how was she in here and how was she placed like this? Her wrists are broken, her ankles are broken, her legs are turned backwards, her mouth is pried open. And we're all looking at this, and you know it smells very, very sour in here because it's 90 degrees. This body is like this. We seen the dirty diapers in the closet. This whole crime scene is wild, and now it makes sense why the gentleman was out front vomiting. The next character we get introduced to is a gentleman by the name of Edmund. Now he has his Walkman headphones on, and it looks like he's preparing to go either play in the Super Bowl or Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But he has some motivation on, and he's just sitting there in his drawers, and this preparation is crazy. We're thinking he's about to go out there and do something magnificent. Now he's sitting here very, very focused. The locker room is empty. It's just him and the world out there in front of him. So we're all wondering, what is he about to get into? Well, it turns out Edmund ain't playing any kind of sport. He's not about to give us a triple double or nothing. He comes out as a pig working at this place called Cheddar's, and he's getting it cracking. It takes two to make a thing go right. All of the kids are going crazy. I'm guaranteeing this is the time of your life if you're between the ages of 3 and about 8 to 9 years old. You're looking at this like this is the place to be. He got the kids going crazy. This is the best audience ever. He's hitting the dance moves we see inside of the mask, and he's over here having a grand old time. The only issue is his boss, his supervisor, is a hater, but he's just doing things by the book and telling, hey, Edmund, that isn't part of the routine. What you're doing is very, very dangerous. You could kick a kid in the face, we could hurt somebody, and we're not trying to pay that insurance out. Who's going to pay it? Because you don't make that kind of money. Now, Edmund is saying, well, the kids like it. The kids are putting, you know what I'm saying? They're putting their hands in the air and they're enjoying dancing. But his boss is like, that's not what we do here. HR, they told me to come up with a routine and you need to stick to it. So Edmund, he's a little down and out because he just wants to put on a show. Being that this is taking place in the 90s, 91, we're going to hear a lot of stuff referencing back to the Rodney King beating. So when she gets to the police precinct, we see the chief of police on there talking about what happened, the mistakes that were made. And you see some of the white officers like, man, this is crazy. But they walk off. And then there's a gentleman by the name of Reggie Marks. He shows up and he comes behind Dawn and she tells him to take a step back. Now we can sense that there's a little bit of chemistry here. We just aren't sure what it is, but it's a little close to be at work. And it's probably her telling him to step back. We don't want anybody to know that we're talking to each other because he seems to be an attorney and she's a detective. Once she goes upstairs, she's talking to the lieutenant and she's telling him about everything she's seen out at the crime scene today. And he's saying, yeah, I heard it was a little bit crazy out there. But what he wants her to do is partner up with McKinney, who was the white officer. And she doesn't want to work with him because of the approach that he takes. So we have two different mindsets approaching the same crime scene. The only thing is, Lieutenant said McKinney is going to be in charge, meaning Dawn, she's going to have to fall in place and do as he says. For her, this is a lose-lose because she was more in deep and in detail when it was coming to taking evidence and documenting what was out there. The young man Malcolm that the police officer was talking about, 16 years old, he lives at this foster house. Now McKinney and Don, as we mentioned, take different approaches, and he's accusing this young man Malcolm of getting high with his friends on the football team and going in there and doing that to Miss Mott. Now Don is saying there's no way he could have did that. The way that this body was configured up under that sink, it wasn't a human. It had to be a machine or something. Now, you could tell that Malcolm is very scared, and Dawn is offering him to get a lawyer because she knows the questioning McKinney is doing is basically stereotyping him into being a big angry black guy to commit these crimes. Also during this interrogation, you can see Dawn is starting to pick up on different type of signals in the way that young Malcolm is reacting to the movement by McKinney. Every time he cracks his knuckles, cracks his neck, you can see a response from Malcolm as if he's scared or he doesn't want anything to do with this. So for Dawn, she's like, okay, we might need to take a different approach on this. McKinney, he's still applying that pressure. You played football. You look like a strong young man. Are you sure Miss Mott didn't make you angry? Because we went to the house several times and had a couple of reports. So Dawn, she's really trying to step in and make things right. We see Edmund at an audition. Now we have a cameraman in here. We have the two writers and the directors in here watching, and he has to get into character. He puts a do-rag on. He has his chains on. He has his sweatsuit on. But one thing we notice about Edmund, he's more of a reserved type individual. He's role playing and trying to get the role and reading the script of a gangster. Hey, here, mother effer, if you mess with us, we'll put a gat in your butt. We're like, what? Whoa, wait a minute. Pause on all of that. Can you redo this scene and try to make it seem like you're an actual gangster? But as we've seen, he's dancing over at Cheddar's as a pig, so he doesn't know how to be a gangster. And the cameraman is laughing at him, and this is just a bad sign. This is not a good audition. They tell Edmund to leave. They're laughing at him. In the hallway, we see a lot of gangsters out there. They all got that red on. They might be bloods. We don't know. They might just be actors. But as he's leaving, there's a woman named Rhonda that sits at the front desk. And he comes in here and he auditions and auditions all the time. And she's telling them, don't give up. That might not have been the role for you, but the right one will come around. Now you can see that Edmund kind of likes her and he's interested in her. So what does he do? He gives her some coins for her young son by the name of Kevin. So when they come to Cheddar's, he can play some games free on the house. So he's kind of doing a little bit of flirting, but he's also down and out that he didn't get that role. After this failed audition, Edmund goes outside and he sits in his car. And he sits in his car. And he sits and he sits and he sits. And out of nowhere, it's nighttime. He's been sitting outside for several hours. But what he sees is Rhonda coming outside and the cameraman that was laughing at him, they hug each other. She smokes a cigarette. He leaves, and you start to hear Edmund saying, "Mess with me, mother effer. Mess with me, mother effer." So that character he was trying to play, trying to be gangster, maybe it just took a little bit of fire to be lit up under his feet for him to start getting into character. We're seeing a little shift, and we're looking at Edmund sideways like, what is wrong with this guy? Because he's been waiting outside for hours. When Dawn gets home, she goes out to the garage and her son Cal, he's outside playing the drums. Now, this is something important we need to pay attention to because when she comes in here to get his attention while he's playing the drums, she flickers the lights several times. And his response is, "I'll be right out," because he's going to finish up his set. So she's just letting him know that she's at home and the lights flickering. It indicates something. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. Once Dawn goes in the house, she's talking to her mother, Athena, who is cooking up a birthday dinner we haven't seen in years. But she has a question because the car, it looks like it ran into something. Now, Athena is saying she was in a rush. There were some garbage cans behind the building. She just backed into it. But we also get some insight on what's really going on. And Dawn is saying, "What's wrong with your hands? Are they okay?" Meaning there's something wrong physically or medically with Athena, meaning she probably ain't got good control of the steering wheel. And she's telling her, "Nah, everything is all right." But Dawn, she's like, "Nah, mom, you might need to chill on driving because you're wrecking the car and you might, end up hurting yourself or someone else." For Dawn's birthday, they got her a gift, and this gift is an old picture of her when she was growing up. Now it's her putting the puzzle together, and this is just a wholesome moment around the dinner table, celebrating your loved one's birthday. So this right here is touching because she probably hasn't seen these pictures in years, and it doesn't take much for your kid to impress you. Just a little photo like this, something handwritten, a drawn photo, it all works, especially when you're a loving, caring parent. Remember, I was mentioning the flickering of the lights when she came to give her son a heads up that she's back at the house? Well, they give us a scene where it's showing the garage and the lights are flickering on that garage. We even see one of the light bulbs going out on the side that kind of explodes. This is signaling something, and we're just waiting to find out what exactly it is. But I tell you one thing, I wouldn't be in that garage after about 6 p.m. No more if I knew that these lights were doing this on their own. Rhonda ends up coming to Cheddar's with her son Kenny, and her and our boy Edmund, they're getting their talk on. Remember, he was sitting outside the vehicle. But we see that Edmund is real good with kids, and that's probably one reason he got into acting because both of his parents were teachers. Now, Rhonda, we see that she's a little bit interested in him, plus, he's good with her kid. So she's saying that her ex, her baby father, isn't good with kids. So now she's telling him, "Listen, why don't you give me your number and I'll call you when any roles come by my desk. Now, I can't guarantee anything, but I'll also help you try to get some roles." So she gives him her number, he gives her his number, and she says, "I don't want you to be in the same regular roles, gangster number one, gangster number two. So we'll see what crosses my desk, and I will definitely notify you." Dawn goes down to Child Protective Services and she's trying to talk to young Kia. Now, this is Malcolm's little sister who stayed in the foster home. Now, you can tell she's a little shy. She likes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but she starts giving us some details of what happened at Miss Mott's house. Miss Mott was a little different. She was very scared, but Kia also says that she was mean. She says that there was somebody in the house but didn't know who it was, and all of the kids, they slept in one room. Miss Mott also said that she was too old to be playing with dolls. So Don is trying to take an approach like, hey, no, you're okay playing with dolls. I'm a little weird because I had an imaginary friend. Kia starts going into a little details about whoever this random person was inside of the home. Now remember, there was no forced entry, and Kia wakes up in the middle of the night, and all you hear is some bones cracking, crack, 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 a little bit of screaming, and you see some laundry detergent in the hallway. So Don is looking at Kia thinking, what? Did you see anything or you just heard stuff? Now, as a kid, she wasn't getting out of that bed. All she could do is hear the sounds of bones cracking and screaming coming from the kitchen. Edmund is on some different type of timing. After playing with Kenny, getting Rhonda's number, looking for jobs, he goes home and we hear cartoons in the background playing, but he opens up his drawer and he has this doll in there. Now, we're not sure what this symbolizes at the moment, but it's in here and he's looking a little suspicious. Dawn makes sure everyone is asleep. She goes in the kitchen, moves the little island, and starts to lay out all of the evidence that she has from the crime scene. And she starts to recreate what was going on in the house. All of the cleaning supplies, she lines it up, and then she tries to put herself up under the sink to figure out how you could get a body in that type of position. And she's starting to realize that you can't do this by a human. You cannot disconfigure someone's body like that and place it in here. So it has her wondering. And now she's listening to the playback of the recordings that she has to get a more insightful thought of the crime scene. And the last thing we see in episode 1 is on the playback, she's listening. You can hear something. She rewinds it again. She rewinds it one more time. And then you hear, "Are you scared?" And once she hears that, she throws the recorder. Because now we're looking at it like, wait, did we hear that voice when she was initially in there recording this? Or is it just something that was caught because it was so high of a frequency that only the recorder caught it? But we hear it saying, "Are you scared?"